Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Friday, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Made it through another week. Got a great weekend looking forward. This weekend we got Jacktown going on. I'll be at Zagre in Connecticut, so I'm looking forward to this. But we got a couple things to do today before the weekend is upon us. First thing I want to do is start off with a little bit of a story. So sit back for a minute. Put on your imagination hats and hopefully you can join me on this adventure I'm going to talk about. I remember last year, those of you who have been with the channel for a while, we had our little ice cream soda challenge. I challenged a lot of you to make an old-fashioned ice cream soda because it's hot, summertime, and it's one of those joyful experiences from when you were a child. A lot of you were on board and had one. And this is the midsummer time, so we do that usually about this time too. But I promised I would tell you about one particular soda called Orange Crush and why I enjoy that soda so much and why I'm a fan. It just so happens I wrote to the company just a few days ago complaining about their new can that they came out with because it's a faded type can. The orange isn't quite the same. It doesn't represent the product. Orange Crush always had some extra food coloring in it to give it this deep, luxurious orange color that is just glorious. And I'll tell you why this matters to me and the story of why I love Orange Crush so much. Now, our story begins in 1989, quite a while ago, right? Some of you weren't even around back then, but 1989, I just finished jungle warfare training school in Panama, and they were holding us over because of Operation Just Cause. So we were in Panama, and I have to tell you something. Those of you who have served in Vietnam or anything like that, I don't know how you did it because the jungle is such a inhospitable place to be. I've trained in all different places, all different environments around the world, and just the jungle just broke me. I hate the jungle. I hate being, anybody knows infantry people hate being damp and wet, and you know, we always say warm and dry. If somebody says how you doing, if you're warm and dry, you're great. But when you're always damp and wet, and you know, you're constantly getting blisters from damp socks, and you know what I'm talking about. It's a horrible place. Jungle, there's 1,000 things that are ready to kill you. There's centipedes, there's vampire bats, there's tarantulas. They even got, Panama's got these blonde tarantulas that I had a friend that was collecting them, and it was just like, these things were just horrible looking. They look like, but there were so many things that, snakes that hang out in the trees and just wait for you to walk by, and pit vipers, you know, oh, it's just a horrible place. And even the trees, something you said, the palm trees, some of them have these thick needles that grow around the trunk, and because the jungle's made up of a clay type soil, you're always slipping and falling, and you go to grab a tree and these spikes go right through your hand, and it's a miserable place to be. For me, I didn't like it. So I was at the end of my rope. Now, we were set up in a base camp with a few tents, squad-sized tents, which means tents that would hold about 13, 14 people, and I remember it was a hot day, and I was just having a miserable time, and all of a sudden we heard choppers coming in, and you know, choppers, it could be one or two things, but usually a good sign, because we had the choppers over there, and sometimes they would drop supplies or whatever, but these choppers, this one particular chopper came over, never seen this before, and it dropped a couple duffel bags on a line through the jungle canopy, through the, you know, the canopy is what they call the leaves of the trees and things like that. But we saw the chopper, and then a line came down. There was 3 duffel bags on the line. Duffel bags, large duffel bags that we're used to, that everybody is just, given when you join the service to put all your stuff in. But these duffel bags were filled with ice and soda, cans of soda, and big chunks of crystal clear ice, about the size of a half gallon of milk, big chunks. And you could see the bags were kind of wet because of the ice was melting a little bit. They lowered it through the jungle. A couple Marines went over and detached the line from the 3 bags, and they dragged it into the tents. Now, I was in the tent, and I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, just sitting on my cot, all damp and wet, trying to dry my socks out that would never dry. And they dragged this duffel bag, one duffel bag of soda and ice into the tent, and my buddy Danny got up and he said, "Oh, look at this, soda and ice." He says, "You want one?" I said, "Nah." I was just, I was feeling bad for myself. "Nah, I'm good," And he pulled out of the duffel bag a big chunk of crystal clear ice and an orange crush soda. He went over to his cot, which was next to mine, and he proceeded to chop down the piece of ice with his bayonet. So he chopped it down to the size of about a softball, and he put it into his canteen cup, his stainless steel canteen cup. He grabbed the orange crush, and he had it sitting there next to the cup while he was cleaning off his bayonet. And I looked over at the orange crush, and there was beads of moisture that were building up on the can because the can was cold from being in the duffel bag with ice. And it was beating up with all kinds of moisture, and it was on that. And I was parched to begin with. It was hot. It was humid. And I was looking at that orange crush can just dripping with moisture, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good." And then he comes over, he cracks open the can, and he pours the contents over the crystal clear ice in the canteen cup. Now that beautiful chunk of crystal clear ice started to float in that beautiful orange color orange crush in that stainless canteen cup that was now dripping with moisture because now it became cold. And now I just started to just cave in. I was looking at it, and he said, "Joe, go ahead, take some." I said, "God, I'm okay." He goes, "Go ahead." And he finished he was working on doing some weapons maintenance or something. And I just reached over. I said, "I'll just take one sip, And I'll never forget grabbing that canteen cup and seeing that water just, dripping off from the heat because of the humidity, and then taking a sip of that with that crystal clear bobbing ice cube. Oh, I was, from that moment on, I'll never forget that moment. That's once, it's funny how sometimes things happen in life. You don't know. We go through so many things every day. You never know when you're going to have a permanent memory, because we forget so many things that happen every day. But, that was a permanent memory. I can't shake it. So now every time I see an orange crush, I think about that day in Panama, sweating and taking a sip of that orange crush with that crystal clear ice cube in the middle of the jungle. So that's why I'm a fan, and that's why to this day I still will drink orange crush, and it takes me back. And not to a place I was happy to be, but Danny made my day that day. I'll never forget that. So now you see why I have a little bit of liking to the older style can, because it brings back memories. But when I was looking it up to write to Orange Crush and ask them why they changed the can, I see they did change it like every 10 or 9 years. Let me ask you a question. Looking at the Orange Crush cans that you see here, which can do you prefer? Leave that in the comments. What year can would you like the best of all the Orange Crush cans you see here? Because I have my favorite, but they don't make it anymore. So anyway, with that, let's get to today's project. Okay, for today's project, the other day, I go out to my porch and I see this big box, heavy box of stuff, and it's from my good buddy Joel Jacobson out of McLean, Virginia. Joel's a good friend of the show, has been for a long time. We featured a few of his send-ins. Let me show you what Joel sent over. Okay, so here's the great stuff that Joel sent over. First of all, the shop rags, we can always use them and stuff. But when I was looking through the things that he sent this time, he always sends a variety of different stuff. Like even, you ever see one of these leather lacings? These are great to hang tools by and stuff. But this is made from one piece of leather, and it's woven like this. I'll show you how to do that sometime. They're always great, especially if you want to hang on something or make some kind of lanyard strap. But he sent a variety of different tools, tools we love, even some nice binoculars, right? And and just tools that we're used to working on and things like that. But we have a couple questions, first of all. First of all, does anybody know what this tool is here? Because I cannot figure it out. I tried, also, I asked Joel, he has no idea either, but he just liked it. You can see what the lettering says here, okay? And you can see what it's called a wheel tight. And you can see when you open this up, it's spring operated. It's got some kind of clamping in there. It's aluminum. It's got some kind of embossing, and there's a rivet here for some reason. I don't know what that rivet's for. Again, it's a kind of a tight spring. It's lightweight. It don't look smooth. Anybody know what this tool is? Please let us know in the comments, because I have no idea. The rest of the tools we're good with. You know, we have a plane. I don't do many planes on the channel because there's so many guys that do great planes, but this one here is an unusual one because it seems like almost like a handyman series. And speaking of handyman series, nice pair of Stanley pliers, handyman series. But I wanted to pick a tool because every time we get a package from somebody, I usually pick one or two tools, do them, and then we'll put the package on until we get to everybody else's tools that's sent in. So I wanted to look through here and say, what do I feel like doing today? This is the fun of when you come down to do restorations. Now, I'm dying to do another F-style auto wrench. We haven't done one of them in a while. And this one I want to do because it's not beat up. I'm so used to doing ones that are so beat up. Imagine if we started with something that was nice. And this one's a nice one. We just did a chisel, but this one's a Baltimore chisel. So we just did one of these. So I'm looking around. I said, you know what I feel like doing? You know, this hammer here. You see this here? This hammer, this ball peen, it's got an extremely long handle. What do you say we tackle this today and have some fun? I love doing hammers. Okay, now the hammer we're going to be working on here, this is as you could see here, this is called a Champion DeArment. Can you see that there? And what that was the original channel lock hammers, okay? And Champion DeArment was the original name for channel lock. And now what we have here is a typical ball peen, a nice size ball peen, but the handle is extremely... Now, we talked about this before when we were talking about ball peens. For some reason, and I think I know the reason now, but for some reason, ball peen hammers always had this very delicate neck here, which always broke. Every time you'll find one of these, you always find one that's either split or chipped or something. And this is no different. We got damage here. So that was always a weak point on these ball peen hammers. And I think the reason they did that is because a lot of times they use ball peen hammers, especially in the railroad industry and stuff, they would tap on things to see if things are tight, to get a resonance. And I think that's why they did. I don't know. But other than that, it's always a poor handle choice, especially with a head this big. That's a weak point. So what I want to do is cut off this damaged piece, shorten the handle, and do this hammer up nice and make it a nice user hammer. Because if you grab this hammer, I guarantee you're not going to grab it at the bottom here. It's just absolutely uncomfortable. You'll choke up on it. You'll grab it here or something like that. So why have it? Let's cut it down. Let's do it up nice. Okay, now you see we cut off the handle as close as we could to the head. Now what we're going to do is we're going to, again, there's that steel wedge. You really don't want to hit that too much. So we're going to take a drill and drill a couple of holes in here just to give it some room so that when we try and punch it out, the wood has a place to collapse and get punched out. Okay, here you can see we just drilled a couple of holes. We didn't go all the way through. Again, you do this just so this has room to collapse when you're going to press this in. If you try and do it without pressing in, it's a little bit harder. So, you know, make it easy on yourself. Now, I could take this over and bang it out with a punch and a hammer, but I know you like seeing the dake in action. Let's get over to the dake. And here we are, everybody's favorite, the dake. Let's take a look at the setup and how we're going to do it. This is a very easy job for the dake. We have the step cone on here, and we had to have different sized blocks of wood because you can see we're going to put this so that this is somewhat level over here, okay? And you can see that the ball is smaller than the head, so we're going to do this so we get it somewhat level. And then we're going to just press this down and out. And you can see here as we come down, we're just going to put it here like this. We're going to hold it with our hand. It should press into the wood a little bit over here and over here, but that's fine. So we're just going to, you can see already, we're getting movement. See this? This makes it so much easier. Again, you're holding the hammerhead so it don't shoot out. And there we go. We're just going to press this out, and then we'll raise it up. Take a look at how that's coming. You see that? Now we just have to put something in there to continue pressing it out. Now we're going to continue to press this down until we get to the second step of that cone. We don't want to push that in where we have any kind of jamming up. So we'll just push this down. It's going to come. It has nowhere to go. It's got to give. And you can see it's coming down. It's pushing it out. We're starting to split the wood a little bit, but that's okay. Now we're getting close to that cone. We're going to raise it up. You can see how we press that part of the way out. Now you could take a small piece of wood or a bolt and continue pressing it out. But what I like to do at this point is, since you got this much hanging, I like to put it into the vise, grab the vise, and then just wedge this up, and I'll show you. Okay, so we take this here, put it into the vise like this, tighten it down onto the vise, get it nice and tight. Okay, don't be afraid to over tighten it, and then use one of your pry tools to pry it up under here. Okay, now the reason I do it that way that I did with the pry bars, everything, it's enjoyable to me, and I don't bang up. A lot of times I used to take a punch and try and wail on there, and the punch would get wedged in, and then you pull it out. You guys know, because we've all taken handles off. Sometimes they pop out nice and easy. This one was in there pretty tight. It can be a job. So now we can work on this here. We'll start with the flaps, and like I said, we're going to try and keep the name. But, again, want to make this one up nice. This is where these facets, you know, that's the trouble with these. And you could do that with the flap sander, but you got to be careful. And then, obviously, there's some, you know, work around here. This is a little mushroomed here. But you see how small that eyelet is compared to this hammer? That's why these things are destined to fail. I just never understood the concept behind the ball peen. That little handle and this big head, you're going to have issues unless you make it a little bit shorter. Okay, here's where we're at with just the flap sander. You can see what we did here. We got all these angles correct, or, you know, close. Again, it's a ball peen hammer. They were forged differently, each one kind of the... now we're going to do the ball on the with the belt sander, and the same with here. We'll finish this off with the belt sander with a coarse grit. Okay, here is where we're at. We are done with the head. That came out nice, huh? Look at that. Smooth all the... Yeah, that's nice. I like it. We're done with this. Now we got to hang it on a handle. Now, as you can see, we cut off all the damaged area that was up here. This will go into here. This has to go down and seat over here somewhere. So what you have to do is you have to remove a little bit of material because it won't go in. You can see it's a little thick on each side. Can you see that in there? We'll remove a little bit of material until we can get it into where it seats nice, and then we'll cut a slot, and I'll show you how we get it. Okay, please excuse the fan noise, but I need some ventilation down here. Now you can see what we're doing. We're reprofiling this. Remember, we a lot of times you'll see guys cut the handle off and just stick it in there, and it kind of gives an odd look to the hammer. You know, you could tell it wasn't factory look. You want that a little bit of a re-swell, if you want to call it, down here. So we took a little bit off with the belt sander till we get to this point here where it fits in to the handle. You see, now we'll bang that in the rest of the way until this swell is much larger than that hole. So we'll bang it in there when we're ready. But you see how we're making that little secondary swell here, so it does, and this is going to go way down. So, you know, That's how you work it. And you just work it with the belt sander going cross grain. That takes off a lot of material. And then we'll, and leave this end on until the very end. Cut that off last because you're going to be banging on it. Okay, so now you see we cut a slot down to a hole. We drilled a hole in there so it won't split any further. The head will go past that hole, but that's where the wedge will go in. And now we're ready to bang this onto the head. And we're going to bang it hard from the bottom. Now, when I say bang it hard, you see where we're at, right? We have it here. Now, remember, we got a 1/4 inch on there. Now we're going to bang it using a soft blow hammer, but you want to have a lot of pressure, a lot of swing, a lot of hard hitting. Okay, you see, and you want to fill this gap in the bottom here, okay? So we're going to just keep wailing it up until we get a curl of wood that looks like that right there. Now you see why we didn't cut the bottom off yet, because we're going to really be wailing on this thing. You need to see, now we have it, it almost doubled the length we have up there, but you see how nice and tight we're getting it at the bottom? That's what you want. You want those curls to come up. And then we'll put our wedge in, our cross wedge. Don't worry about that gap. That'll fill in with the wedge. I cut my own wedge out of poplar. I personally like that. I started here and I glue it. I put a little glue. Glue acts as a lubricant as it's going in. And the important thing is that you turn it upside down. You put your wedge, if you have an anvil or something, it really helps. Put it on something solid and bang the handle like this, okay? That's how you're going to bang your wedge in. Because if you try and bang it in from the top, what happens is it'll loosen the head up. So bang it in this way. Sanded this flush now, but remember, now we're going to put the steel wedge in. And remember I said I always want to try one of these. I think this would be a good candidate for one of these round ones. So let's give this, we're going to just tap it and we'll bring it to the dake. Double Dake Friday. Okay, this is my first time using one of these wedges. Here's the setup. We have it right there. We replaced the nose cone. Now we're going to see if we can't just press this in straight down. The dake makes easy work of everything, but let's see what happens here. Okay, now we're just going to release it. Okay, and then take a look. You can see what we're looking at here. Okay, it's going nicely, and let's continue. Again, you want it to be straight. We're over 2 tons of pressure. These things aren't easy to get in. Now you see why I use the dake. 2.5 tons. Let's release. Whoa. Okay. You can see they're tough to get in. Okay, once again. A little bit. Release. Okay, now I think I'm going to tap the rest of that in with a regular hammer, because I don't want the dake to put too much pressure on this little contour we made down here. But that looks good. Okay, you know my favorite part. Remember what this hammer looked like before we started. And we're calling this project almost complete. Now, I'm really happy with that. I tell you the truth, this might be one of the best hammer head handling I think I might have ever done. It's just, I'm really proud of the way this came out. I like the shape, the perfect length for this head. It's a very heavy head, but it's a good length, even though I do like a short. This is just beautiful, huh? Look at the grain on this, how it's going almost perfect. You know, that's a good handle. You hate to throw it out, right? So that came out nice. Everything, the handling came out good. Look at the top here. Look how cool that looks, huh? I mean, you know, you see when I was doing it first, I got it down. I didn't want to push too hard with the dake and take a chance on snapping this, because I had almost 3 tons on there. So I when I was hammering, it almost peened itself over, and just, isn't that awesome? And now with a little linseed oil on there, it's going to really make it look, I just love the way that looks. Now, my plans for this is obviously to put color in here. That's why I didn't take out any of those deep. The scratches that are there will help hold the paint. So I want to put some color, some, you know, stain on the handle. But I know a lot of you purists out there enjoy the look of just a natural hammer. And this is a natural hammer that I guess everybody can be on board with. But here we go. So that's today's project. Joel, thank you so much. Who knew this would come out like this, huh? Maybe Joel did. He's a big tool guy. So really appreciate this. Okay, real quick, once again, I urge you, if you don't have one, get one of these Poor Man air filtration systems. When it starts getting a little bit dark, you take your vacuum with the brush on the end, and you can vacuum it, and you know it'll make the filter. So you're not going through a lot of these filters. That's only a $3 filter, and already, you know, I mean, look at it. It gets a little dark or whatever, but you'll know when it starts to get clogged. But the vacuum pulls that right out, and it's a great thing to have. Get one of them. Okay, so in closing, we covered quite a bit today. I hope it's not running super long, but it was a fun episode. Let me know what you think of what can do you like best of the Orange Crush variety. And special thanks to Joel Jacobson, sent some great stuff in. This hammer's coming out really nice. And thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Take care now. Bye-bye.